Calling to order the Municipality of Monroeville's Citizens Night and Agenda Setting Meeting for May 2nd, 2023 is approximately 7 p.m. If you'd all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Can I have a roll call, please?
Mayor Griesbach.
Here.
Mr. Hizzy.
Here.
Mr. Poach.
Here.
Mr. Stevenson.
Here.
Mr. Wolfram.
Here.
Mr. Adams.
Here.
Mr. Williams.
Here.
Mr. Biondo.
Here.
Mr. Little.
Here.
Mr. Ratcher.
Here.
Ms. Rock.
Here.
Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Mr. Sedlak.
Here.
Mr. Weldon.
Here. Welcome. We're going to open up the floor for citizens' remarks and comments. This is for any municipal item. This also includes the draft zoning ordinance that we've been discussing over the past several months. So if anyone would like to discuss any municipal item, now would be your chance to address council. This is for taxpayers and residents. We always ask to keep your comments to a 5-minute time period. We will have it timed. There will be a timer. Any comments after 5 minutes will not be taken into the record. So once you are done signing in, you could just state your name for the record and start with your comments.
Lois Drumheller, Monroeville. Let's be factual about April 4th's public hearing on our proposed zoning ordinance. Mayor Griesbach presided over the public hearing that night, but omitted swearing in the public on the zoning ordinance. A standing room only public were made to wait for an hour while a paid consultant presented not testimony, but zoning information that would have been better to hear at a March meeting. More ordinance-related misinformation was also published twice by the Times Express on April the 5th and April 11th. Here's Mr. Weldon's quote, "The draft ordinance lists oil and gas development as a conditional use in the Conservancy, landfill, and M2 zoning districts so as to avoid exclusionary zoning," unquote. This statement is false. The Times Express has not responded to follow-up calls or emails calling for a correction. There was never a threat of exclusionary zoning before or after the changes were made to our green spaces and landfill. Another quote from Mr. Weldon about why the landfill and conservancy zones had to allow for oil and gas. Quote, "We could be sued and we could end up in court and a judge or the DA in another case can tell us where to put it," unquote. This statement is false. Monroeville on October 10th, 2017 put oil and gas operations as a conditional use in the M2 industrial zone where it has been over 5 years without violating by concept of exclusionary zoning. We have a comprehensive plan Monroeville adopted that is a multi-municipal, and this comprehensive plan is for Churchill, Monroeville, and Wilkins. It assures we don't violate Section 1103 of the Municipal Planning Code. It puts to rest the exclusionary zoning argument because Churchill, Wilkins, and Monroeville all provide for oil and gas development. We already keep oil and gas operations from being exclusionary. You can even see council's acknowledgement of this at the end of the April 11th council business meeting at the 28-minute mark of the YouTube video of that meeting, which is online. There are deceptive remarks made by Monroeville's solicitor, Mr. Ratcher, in the same portion of that video. He makes a hasty generalization based on insufficient evidence as to why the public should have no reason to think Monroeville gave improper notice of the public hearing. He said, quote, "It's a basic principle in law that when you come forward and claim you don't have notice, that claim goes away if you actually come to the hearing that you are actually supposed to have notice of and get an opportunity to speak," unquote. He and the mayor are incorrect in their recollection that Pitcairn had decided to have a representative at this meeting, this public hearing. It was clear by watching the public hearing that it was Mayor Griesbach who decided that one member of Pitcairn Council should represent all of Pitcairn, a Mr. Thomas Dick. Improper notification violates Section 502 of the MPC, which recognizes that if changes in land use would negatively impact residents that live within 1/2 mile, all those people have standing. The reason our recent public hearing drew standing room only capacity had nothing to do with Monroeville notifying residents, which I question. It had more to do with the efforts put forth by an organization with which Mr. David Mintz and I are affiliated with, Protect PT. We phone banked Monroeville residents. We announced this meeting through social media. We mailed out postcards to affected neighborhoods. We provided education to the public in person. We canvassed Monroeville neighborhoods near the landfill, that's how I got this bum knee, near the landfill and conservancy areas, and it was by the citizenry that communities like Pitcairn were even made aware of potential effects of moving oil and gas operations conditionally on a hugely expanded landfill zoning change. I've also reviewed some email exchanges obtained by a right-to-know law. And going through there, it's interesting, and it sort of paints the picture as to who really was making changes and suggesting changes to the zoning ordinance where oil and gas was concerned. In one of these that were in from January 18th, the proposed ordinance, Paul Weldon says, is the setback is listed at 1,200 feet. Do you know where that number came from? Another ordinance, random, calculated to be the largest setback possible without becoming exclusionary. Mayor Nick had the idea of making it 1,500 feet, 3 times the state setback of 500 feet. And another one from
Thank
Paul
you for your
Weldon
comments, Mrs. Drumheller. You will have another
I was also
opportunity.
informed again
Your
that
comments from this point
I am-
forward
I
are
am
not into
almost
the
done.
record.
I
Your
beg your
5 minutes
pardon.
are left. Your 5
I'm
minutes are
sure
up.
that there's one more thing I can say about this, and it was a move on to council time.
These next comments will not be in the
And
record.
that Mr. Ratcher, according to Paul Weldon, represents Apex Energy. I never said anything of the kind, Mr. Weldon. I did many times say that Mr. Ratcher has worked for Apex Energy, that you would think somebody with that background would not be upset and make comments that
Mrs. Drumheller, you are now,
regulatory nightmares
you're out of
are
line.
going on
There are other
with
people that would like to
some of
speak
the
and to address council.
legislation. So there aren't any pieces of legislation that are regulatory nightmares, Mr. Ratcher. It is something
Mrs.
that I
Drumheller,
would think
it's
that
time
you
for
would
you
know from your experience
to take
with
a seat
Apex, how
and
regulations
allow
are
somebody else to
necessary.
speak.
Thank you.
I will leave the floor open for anyone else that would like to address council.
All right. David Mintz. In my 5 minutes, would like to reiterate some of the issues that Ms. Drumheller brought up, including the fact that I think there was a misrepresentation of the idea that Mr. Thomas Dick was the representative of Pitcairn that day. It didn't come from him. I was at the meeting, and as I recall, Mr. Mayor, that you told him, okay, you're going to be the representative for the people from
I
Pitcairn.
gave him a choice, yes.
Yeah, and so, I mean, there was going to be one representative, I guess, but that didn't, what I'm saying is he didn't come up and say, I'm representing everybody. As I recall, it came from you to him, and
He said
and he said, okay, yeah, right. But I mean, the idea was, he
I gave
didn't
him-
come as a representative himself.
I
mean,
gave him the choice.
Right.
And there was other members here, and the
Yeah.
mayor of Pitcairn was here, and he said, okay. But they could
Okay.
have
Oh, so
chosen
then I
others.
didn't, all right, then maybe I even misunderstood. So if he hadn't said okay, would it have been okay? Would the mayor of Pitcairn been allowed to speak if he had said, no, I'm not a representative? Okay, then I misunderstood that. Maybe he did too. I don't know. I thought, well, he was being told he was a representative and that's all who could speak. I misunderstood it. I'm going to say that. I'm going to guess maybe he did too, but that was my point on that. I also was studying the communications from the Right to Know that we had, and interestingly, the idea about the setback once again was that as we've been speaking for months and months and months about where that 1,200-foot setback came from, and once again from the communications, it still looks like nobody even knows. Like once again, something that's in writing came out of somewhere, and Mr. Weldon asked Mr. Ratchard, if he knew, and Mr. Etcher said no, and then they talked about the exclusionary idea and about the 1,500 feet that Mr. Drumheller brought up, and about the size of M2 and the size of the landfill, and the considerable differences in the sizes and how various setbacks wouldn't fit, let's say, in the smaller one being M2, but would fit in the landfill being, like, there was a mention of 4,000-foot diameter at some point of the landfill, and that, different setbacks would fit there, but not necessarily in the M2. But once again, as we've spoken for many months, if we keep it the way it was voted by council in October of 2017, the 500-foot setback fits, it's not exclusionary. So the worry that, and I did that canvassing as well, where Mr. Drumheller injured her knee, the idea, when I spoke to people, that there would be any problem with exclusionary issues that haven't happened for the last 5 years, really haven't happened because we do provide, as was said, we do provide for it in that zone with the 500-foot setback. So I find it, I've been involved with this for a long time, as most of you know me pretty well, that we're even just discussing a different setback if nobody can tell us where it came from, which, once again, even from the communications I'm reading, nobody knows. They just ended up on a piece of paper and nobody knows where it came from. So that seems pretty odd. I think we're okay. I don't think we're going to be exclusionary for various reasons if we just keep it the way it is, as well as the landfill not changing size as another subject. Whether there's fracking or not in the landfill area, that does affect communities that live around it, including Pitcairn and Monroeville neighborhoods that I did walk through and talk to people in. And as far as I can see, to reiterate the other idea is that we had meetings with people, including the mayor of Pitcairn and the municipal manager, Mr. Bowen, and the doors I went to and talked to people, nobody said, oh, yeah, we were notified. I mean, maybe we didn't hit that house. I can't say. I didn't talk to every person at Monroeville, obviously, but I think there was a real concern and a real concern about the people, especially around the landfill, that might be affected about the amount of notification they may have received. It seems like we were always bringing Protect PT and the other people and all the work we did we mailed out. We spent a lot of money mailing out postcards. We had 2 public education sessions at the Monroeville Library, completely open to the public, and as far as I can remember, everybody was learning about it from us. Nobody was saying, oh, yeah, we were notified. They were like, what? No, they're not doing that, are they? So I think there's some concern about the amount of notification some people that could have gotten it, whether they did or not. Once again, I'm hoping, I don't know, and I know this is not the point where you would answer questions, but this is hopefully not the last time people get to come up and make comments about this. I would assume that next council meeting, after the meeting, if it's not on the agenda, that would be the case. Okay, so as I probably have used up my 5 minutes about, so I will.
Right on time.
Right on time. Okay, so thank you.
Thank you, David, for adhering to the 5 minutes. I'll leave the floor open for anyone else who'd like to address council on any municipal item.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. My name is Bill Shopes. I'm a resident 48 years on Madden Drive. Recently, they came down and repaired the street and let it be known it was scheduled for tar and chip. In talking with my neighbors on Madden Drive, it is to the best interest that neighborhood that I got up a petition to not tar and chip the street. We'd rather have it without the tar and chip and be a whole lot easier and less harm. So with that being said, that's all I have.
Okay, if you could just give me that petition, I'll put it into the
Leave it
record. Hand it to me, please. Thank you, sir.
Hi, everyone. I hope you feel better soon, Mr. Poach.
Thank you, Doctor.
I hope everybody here feels better.
Would you state your name, please?
My name is Alyssa Beck. I hope everybody here feels better soon. I hope the community feels better soon. I hope council feels better soon. And I hope we can open lines of effective, transparent, and appropriate communication. I'm saddened when I watch the meetings virtually. I'm saddened when I come here in person. I don't think I have to elaborate why. I think we all feel within our bones and our organs that something is awry, something is amiss. There's several issues in that very long document that I haven't not yet waded through, that was just released, I think, last month for the public. Something about hospitals being allowed in other areas of Monroeville or healthcare. If healthcare was actually wellness care, I wouldn't mind. But I'm concerned that North American Martyrs has been purchased by Forbes Hospital or Allegheny Health Network. I would rather see a farm there that produces healthy organic food. I'm wondering, I asked last month where the 5G towers will be located in this community. If zoning changes, will the 5G towers be allowed near residential households? I don't have an answer to that. I don't expect answers anymore from here. I expect to have to research it myself, but I don't really have time right now. I asked about emergency responses. Mr. Poach was kind enough to get back to me. It's a complicated issue. There have been hazardous situations down at the rail yard about a mile from where I live, walking distance. And there have been some responses here, but I still wonder what will be the response if there is a train that falls over that's on its way to the petrochemical plant 30 miles from here. Yes, I concur with Mr. Mintz and Mrs. Drumheller that in 2017, 2018, 2016, for a decade, Sustainable Monroeville has worked on this fracking issue. For people that are watching in the public, if you go to Sustainable Monroeville, and also for council, for those members that have really not heard of the work of Sustainable Monroeville, sustainablemonroeville.blogspot.com, and scroll back 10 years and see something about the history of this issue. I want to thank, lastly, Mr. Poach for adding an agenda item for next Citizens Night. I would like, on behalf of, as the founder of Sustainable Monroeville, to offer some awards to at least 5 or 6 people who have been working diligently on this issue for at least a decade, and to honor many individuals who have really been looking out for the wellness of this community. And I encourage people to donate generously to Protect PT, Protect Penn Township and Trafford. Donate generously to reimagine the Turtle Creek Watershed and Airshed Communities Plus. That's reimagineticwac.org, so that we can get straight and transparent information about these issues that affect our human health and the health of all the animals, plants, and all the critters on the planet. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll leave the floor open for anyone who'd like to address council on any municipal item. We're going to close the comment period. And I would agree that there has been a lot of misrepresentation and deception, but not from, the municipality. There's been a lot from an outside organization that has led to a lot of misrepresentation and misinformation about this document. Once again, this is our zoning ordinance that covers the entire municipality. It's a 400-page document. It hasn't been updated since the 1980s. We've been working on this for several years. Multiple planning commissions, multiple employees, multiple consultants. COVID hit, we got back at it again, and we got to this point. We went to the planning commission. This is still in draft form. It's in draft form. It's been, publicly accessible on our website, at our municipal buildings, And all this information is out there, and it is transparent. And we are not voting on it tonight. We are not voting on it at next Tuesday's meeting. At the earliest we could vote on it will be in June, but it's possible we may not vote on it until July. We all want to get it right. It is a big document. It's an important document. Oil and gas exploration is part of that, and we don't want it to be exclusionary in nature. I would agree that our current ordinance from 2017 that I voted on myself whenever I was a second ward council person, I agree. I think that's a good ordinance. I voted on it and I still support it. And personally, I think that's how it should be moving forward in this ordinance, in our draft ordinance, our zoning ordinance. And I'll get to asking my colleagues up here as well in a few moments about that, but we haven't gotten the chance to even talk about that. So we were going through the steps of the public hearing where, okay, it's all out in the open, we can talk about it, we give the residents an opportunity to speak at a public hearing, which, by the way, it came up a few times as far as not swearing in people. That's not correct. We swear in people for public hearings, as we probably will for our liquor license transfer later on in this meeting, because that we're being quasi judicial as a council, as a governing body. The public hearing for the zoning ordinance, that's legislative in nature. You don't have to swear people in. So it's a legislative factor. So the whole thing as far as not swearing in, that testimony is still good. The people that spoke at April's meeting, your testimony, your comments are in the record, absolutely. All the comments from last month's regular meeting at the end, tonight's, next Tuesday's at the end of the meeting, that they can dedicate towards the zoning ordinance will be in the record. It's official. Those are your comments. And like I said, back in April, the residents will have multiple opportunities to make comments on this item. Once again, it's an important item. We all want to get it right. So I would agree that, we don't want our ordinance to be exclusionary, and that's what we definitely want to avoid. As far as, distances, setbacks, those are all things that are important, and that's what we want to talk about. This is a living, breathing document, just like our budget is every year. We come up with a budget, the manager comes up with a budget, and then we talk about it over the next several months. That's how this was. We've been working on this since, Mr. Wielden, when did this start? Refresh my memory.
Over 10 years ago?
Over 10 years ago. We've been talking about it. It's been in draft form, and we're going to keep talking about it until we actually vote on this thing in a couple months.
Mayor, I have a question for you.
Yes.
I'm trying to recall. So I believe we asked last time, there are parts of this, like we can sort of make a menu of things to talk about and then put that in place and identify how we want that to be presented into the ordinance for clarification, as opposed to doing the whole thing. Because again, to your point, the whole part is difficult.
Well, in the draft itself, we'll come back to you in a second. In the
Yeah.
draft itself, there are even areas that are highlighted because Mr. Wielden, the consultant, the planning commission, they had questions about it. So it's not like that's set in stone. And that's something for us to all talk about publicly and figure out the best way to go about it. The oil and gas exploration, we keep going back to this. And
Well,
Mr.
that's
Wielden
sort of-
brought
I
up
think I
the
wanted to talk
information as
about,
far as.
and I think maybe we can ask as a group to make some clarification. So, and I also, and I know you voted on that part of the bill, and for some reason, I also had a chance to vote on that, like one of the very first things that I did in the beginning of 2018, that same bill, which has the offsets and information. I'm going to need some help here, guys, to work this out. But what I'm saying is, if we have the opportunity to just focus on the oil and gas piece, could we have available the language within the next week that clearly identifies and somewhat reflects most of what we already have existing in the context of this term? Now, we have an
M2.
I'm sorry, Dennis, we talked.
The M2 zoning district with the 500-foot setback would not be exclusionary, and that's currently how it is in
Okay,
place.
so could we maybe as a group, if we agree, let's just look at one thing at a time that's so massive. If we could agree on this one topic, Paul, if you can make sure that the language is good, could you give that to us on Tuesday acceptable? Guys, do you think that that's open back up? I just want to take this particular piece off because I think it reflects pretty much the will of most of us, and I'll let anybody else go. Bob, you guys have thought about it as well.
I think it's important that the public knows that that's a 400-page document. Granted, 100 pages, or 100 pages of that are definitions, so it's a 300-some-odd document. And there's a lot more on there than 20 pages of drilling in the community that are important, very important. I was on a planning commission for a few years, and I worked on a document also. So everyone has to know that there's more to that document than just oil and gas. And that's what I wanted the public to know.
Yeah, so I mean, getting back to it, I mean, the council can suggest changes at any time during the public meetings because we're not voting on that change. We can make changes, suggestions, and even if it's outside of this, because there's other things we definitely want to talk about as far as changes to the draft ordinance. Those changes start getting put into the, into the draft, and we keep building that ordinance until we get to the point where, okay, this is the one we are voting on, and that's what's advertised prior to us voting on it, and maybe that's June, maybe that's July, there's public notice.
Yeah, and it's probably
And
better
we
said-
finally know the final
Yeah.
item, or the final document that we're voting on.
I just want to pick that, I'm just trying to pick this one off, Let's just
No, I
pick
agree.
this
I mean,
one,
and that's the thing.
clarify.
I wanted to, we wanted to talk about this, but we certainly want to give the residents time to discuss things or to give their input on things. And even council had to gain more information at the public hearing as well, but from the consultant and from Mr. Wielden. So as far as.
I guess, is this the appropriate time to do that?
This meeting, this Citizens Night agenda-setting meeting is an appropriate time.
So I
Also,
think-
next Tuesday is an appropriate time.
So I think
Anytime-
Eric and I are of the agreement that to put it in, to leave it as it is, essentially. Put it in, change the language to the M2 with, change the language so that the oil and gas exploration would be in the M2 zoning district with the 500-foot setback. Do we need to ask?
Well, I think we should talk about it. I mean, does anybody have an
Yeah,
issue with
right.
that? Did it change?
No, I mean, this isn't a voting meeting, but I mean, it's a consensus of council. If that's what the consensus of council wants to put in the draft, we can do that.
Can we get the language that reflects that intent available for us for Tuesday?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. So essentially, folks, I think that really kind of takes that piece, it's important among, to Bob's point, how many, pages, at least one thing sort of done
Check it off the list.
and taken care of. So essentially, it's unchanged. Okay,
What do
we
you,
do that.
excuse me, Eric, what are you asking Paul to get us?
The language of exactly what that would say then, to reflect the intent of what the old, I mean, it may exactly be the same. Do you have the same?
I think I have the
Yeah,
I might have,
essentially
honestly, I
reflected,
think it's
so that
in my
the
car
same
right now.
context. Why, because I know there were some different zones and.
Well, that's still in the draft, the M2.
Not
What
exact.
I can do is I can revise that section. I'll remove the landfill and conservancy
Yes.
references. It'll just be M2 and a 500-foot setback. I'll revise that section and get that to you guys.
Yeah, because I think there are other updates to the,
Updates and
to
stuff that were
the,
in it, Mike, yeah, there was, because the
There's other
confusion
updates
was the Conservancy
regulation.
and all that other kind of stuff in there. This is essentially what we've had. It's in, it's out, it's done, it's finished. Then that one can be set over to the side that we're presenting that like, we've looked at it and it's up to date. And it will reflect in the document a recent review, not something, and again, just everybody else said, this has been going on for so many years. This is our most recent view on this particular issue.
Yeah, so this is, and I keep going back to like how the budget works every year.
Sure.
We usually
Good
have a
example.
list of changes, so.
It's a good example.
We don't have, how many pages is the budget every year?
Oh, go ahead.
200.
200 pages. Every meeting, we don't get updates, but certainly every meeting, there might be changes, or maybe when the department heads come up, they ask for something different, we change it, we tweak it. We don't change every number until that December meeting when we vote on it. And that's how this would be as well. So Mr. Wheelan, what Mr. Little does during the budget process, along with Ms. Rock, is that, they keep kind of a list of what the changes are for the budget. So Mr. Wheelan, you'll do the same thing as far as some of the things we discuss, between now and when we actually vote on it. And then, once it's time for it to be in front of council and actually vote that month, we'll have all the changes, the public will have all the changes, they can actually see what we're actually voting on. But is there any other changes at this point that anyone would like to discuss?
I worked in this project probably 2012, 2015, and we worked a couple nights a week for 2 years. And my biggest problem with government is we drag our feet so much. When I got my first term on council, I asked council to fast-track this zoning ordinance, and they agreed to do that, and that's why we're at now. We're trying to get this done, so we have a good document and a right document. Thank you.
Anything else about the zoning ordinance?
Nothing else?
I do have a question that was brought up there was a speaker regarding the Rudders property. There were some changes that were suggested. Is that something that you've been able to look through as far as is that a possibility? Is that an option?
I didn't see any problems with doing that.
Okay.
You know, it's been an existing non-conforming use for over 40 years. You know, it seems like a logical time to make that change to the zoning map and make it some type of a legal conforming use.
So if we can get that part as well into the changes, just so council can review that as
The
well.
only change that would just be the map. It wouldn't be anything in the text of the ordinance. It would just be changing the color on the map to associate with the current use.
Would there have to be a subdivision in that scenario?
I thought she wanted to subdivide her residence.
She does, but we don't have to do that
that's a
for
different
the
subject.
zoning map.
Okay.
We can put the line where she wants the property line to be.
Okay.
But we don't have to do the subdivision first. We can change the zoning map first.
And we don't have to do this through planning I mean,
Subdivision would have to go through her.
Right,
What
that's
what
the-
Paul is
don't we
saying
have
is
to-
that,
thing,
yeah, what Paul is
Okay.
saying is he can just draw the lines differently.
okay.
Just change the colors. Because there's a couple other places where there's some existing non-conforming uses, and it would be appropriate now to change those to conforming uses.
Okay. Okay,
Process is good.
and like I said, as we've mentioned a few times here, we want this to be, the right document for the community. It's been a long time in the making.
I remember you said that. I remember.
It's unfortunate that as far as how, some pictures were painted throughout the process. Ultimately, we got to the same conclusion, and this is where I was the whole time. But it was really disingenuous of some individuals putting out information. A lot of individuals would come to me because were under the impression that actually, it's not, they just thought that we were voting to allow fracking, which is really twisting some words. Some people thought that we were actually voting to allow drilling like tomorrow, that a drilling company was coming tomorrow. And that's the impression a lot of residents had, when in actuality, we just have to find a way to regulate this, which that's what council wants to do. I personally, I don't think it belongs, hydraulic fracturing belongs in Monroeville. Personally, I think it's an important part of our energy independence for this country. I think it's extremely important for Pennsylvania, but I think there are better places to do it in Pennsylvania, and those places aren't that far from Monroeville, but I don't think Monroeville's the right place for it. And I do respect most of the residents', concerns about that, absolutely. But, just the way this was handled from the get-go, wasn't the most appropriate from some organizations, and it's not appreciated. But we're getting to the same point, and we're going to keep working on this zoning ordinance and do what's best for the community.
Well, to that point too, Mayor, you talked about, we were doing a hearing, and I realize it's difficult, and it's taken me a few years to understand that when we're in a hearing process, we're in a process that we're not supposed to bias anybody else coming forward from our positions here.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not sure if it's illegal, it certainly is unethical to be able to do that. We've had problems in the past where people have sat here and said, I'll never put it, and then it turns into a problem. And sometimes the people that appear in front of us think that we're not saying anything out of spite or being disingenuous or something. We're not speaking on it, we're supposed to be listening, to do that. This is one of those examples that I don't think I've ever heard now that we really ever wanted to change, much of a change, but certainly it clarified, what it is that we're doing too. So being in a hearing mode here sometimes, as we're going to be shortly, is something we're just going to listen to and then to query from it. But in this case, legislatively, as you said, to do that too. So I know that's hard for people to understand. We look here and don't say anything to you, have an expectation of a comment that we're really not supposed to do that, to do that as well too. So, well done to everybody else. We did our best to listen through and there's more, I'm sure, coming forward.
There's more. Once again, we're not voting on this evening. We're not voting it on a week from today, next Tuesday. The earliest would be June or July, and then once we kind of figure out what we want to change, if we want to change things, then there might be some involvement with the county. Depending on if there's substantial changes, the county may need to review it again, but we'll have to get the definition on what's substantial, and that's what we'll figure out. But we'll keep everyone posted on the progress of this document as it moves forward. So we're going to move down into the agenda. We do have a public hearing now for a liquor license transfer. Is it, how do I pronounce it? Zia. It's Zia?
Zia.
That's what I was going to guess, but I didn't want to, yeah. So Zia's Restaurant.
Cool.
Zia's Restaurant, Lounge, and Events LLC. We have a liquor license transfer, so the applicants are here in representation. You could, yep, you can approach.
Little advertising I can see ahead of time.
So, if you could state your name for the record, please, sir.
Do I need to be sworn in?
I will, yeah, we'll.
Okay.
I'm gonna-
Chad Schneider from the Caputo Law Office.
Great,
Here
thank you.
representing the applicant.
Great.
Hi, I'm Joy Benton.
Joy, okay, very good. And this is a public hearing, and I will swear you, you both in. If there's anyone else here from the public that would like to add testimony to this public hearing, I'll ask you to be sworn in as well. If you don't do it now, it's okay, and you decide you want to speak later, I can swear you in later, that's no problem. But for now, we'll start with you two, if you don't mind raising your right hand. You can too as well, sir. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. So if you want to go on with your
Thank you,
presentation.
sir. Z is a privately owned Pennsylvania limited liability company that is seeking to add a restaurant liquor license to its existing restaurant business located at 2525 Monroe Boulevard, Unit 1, Monroeville, PA. They've been in business since July of 2022. The applicant is seeking a intermunicipal transfer of Pennsylvania restaurant liquor license R2705 from the Ultra Lounge, which was on Liberty Avenue in the city of Pittsburgh. Pursuant to section 461B3 of the Liquor Code, we must first get approval from the municipality before filing an application with the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board to transfer the license from one municipality to another, and that's why we are here before the governing body. Zia's Restaurant and Lounge is an American soul food restaurant. The seating is approximately 40 people, plus they have 2 banquet rooms. The hours of operation are Sunday, 11 to 3, Tuesday, Wednesday, 12 to 11, Thursday, 7 to 11, Friday, 12 p.m. to 12 a.m., and Saturday is 9 a.m. to 1 a.m. They intend on doing a complete renovation of approximately $145,000. They have approximately 5 employees. They are family-owned. They will all be RAMP certified. Mrs. Benton has been in the restaurant industry for over 16 years. Both her and her husband are active in the business. Both are residents of Monroeville. And once we receive a resolution from the township, if you approve it, it would still have to go through the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board process, and that takes approximately 8 to 12 weeks in order for them to be approved and clear. Thank you.
Is there a liquor license at that facility now?
No, sir. That's what they're asking for it now.
That was Tellerico's before?
Yes, sir.
And they didn't have a liquor license, or they took it with them, or?
They had lost it, to
Oh,
my
they lost
knowledge.
it.
Well, it had to be sold to help them
Okay.
get out of trouble they were
Okay,
in.
thank you.
Thank you. Tell us about your restaurant.
Tonight is Taco Tuesday, and soul food is available every day. We're on Grubhub, Uber Eats. We have line dancing this evening. We do jazz the first Friday of every month. There's a $20 cover for jazz. We rotate jazz bands. It includes a complimentary cocktail. On Wednesday, we have Wild Caught Wednesday. We offer seafood alongside our soul food menu. Our soul food menu, we have beef ribs, pork ribs, turkey ribs, baked macaroni, linguine, potato salad, a lot of your favorites. On Thursday, we have a karaoke night with dollar whole wings if you dine in. On Fridays, we have a bar menu that we feature, and we play oldie but goodies. About 6:30, we have an oldie but goodie DJ. On Saturdays, we just have a late night menu. There's nowhere late to eat in Monroeville past 1 o'clock. And then it's always chain restaurants, or it's pizza or Chinese food. And my cul-de-sac and a lot of my neighbors, my children are in a lot of the sports, and we just needed a change in food. So for the last 9 years, I've been selling real estate, and I've had a daycare in Penn Hills. My children are a little bit older, so I wanted to get back to cooking. So I've rode past the old Tellerico's for 3 years, going to the eye doctor across the street, and been trying to get in the space, and God willing, it finally happened. But when the holidays come, restaurants tend to get slow, people don't eat out. But when you have alcohol and spirits to sell, people drink when they're happy, when they're sad. So I can't really bring in a lot of workers that are not family, because I don't have the alcohol sales to cover a payroll and payroll taxes. So I tried to go as long as I could without
You
it.
open for lunch?
Yes, I am. On Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we're open for lunch.
Okay.
And answer me this now. One day you're open 12 PM to 12 AM? Did I hear that right?
On Fridays, we're open from 12 noon for lunch till 12 a.m.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
thank you.
And is this your first restaurant?
No, I used to have a takeout restaurant in Swissvale on Roslyn Street, when, on the same street the municipality used to be on. I was 25. I was the first one there. I was the last one to leave. And I was like, no. So I had left. I was fresh out of culinary school. I graduated from the Cordon Bleu downtown. So I went and started working under Mr. John Bettis at an upscale restaurant that used to be in the Strip District to get upscale experience. I had worked at TGI Fridays to get the fast line experience over here in Monroeville. And again, I left because I had younger children, and I would only cater. I would cook for the Stillers inside their home to help them maintain their diets during off-season. Players like Ryan Sagier, Jarvis Jones, Vince Williams, I had cooked for all of them. So my passion is cooking. That's what Tellerico's, they cater more to the bar side, but we're catering more to the restaurant side. I want to be known for cooking, so it's not a nightclub. I don't call the bar area a bar. You're not allowed to say bar. It's a lounge. We're family. Like even our karaoke nights, the small children come in. So my children are there. My oldest son is 16, so he does online with Gateway High School, and he helps there a lot. So if you ever stop in, you would meet my oldest son. And then my 3-year-old daughter comes in. We put an apron on her. The restaurant.
Maitre Dean.
Yeah, the restaurant is her middle name. So we put aprons on her, and you'll see her walking around there, climbing over the benches.
Great. Council, any other questions for the applicant? Is there anything else you'd like to add for the testimony of the hearing?
Yes, sir.
Very good. So, motion to close this public hearing.
Motion to close.
Move second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
This hearing is closed. We're not going to vote on this evening. We're going to consider it a week from today, next Tuesday.
Yes, sir.
Good luck. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
It's going to be good.
Sounds like a heck of
I know you'd like it.
I'm gonna have to go down there.
I want to see the line.
Yeah, but I've seen them on.
Council, we are moving through our agenda. I have an executive session announcement. The council conducted an executive session before tonight's Citizens Night on May 2nd, 2023, from 6:15 PM to 7 PM for personnel and litigation reasons. Council legislative action, if any, shall be taken at the Tuesday, May 9th council meeting. Approval of the minutes. The minutes for us to consider next week are from the Citizens Night meeting of April 4th, 2023, the council agenda-setting meeting of April 4th, 2023, and the regular council meeting of April 11th, 2023. Any questions or comments about those minutes, council?
None.
Hearing none. Reports of our tax collections. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. List of bills and budget transfers. Council, any questions or comments? Hearing none, very good. And the payroll report, any questions or comments? Hearing none, we're moving along. We have bids and proposals. It's in the white section of your packet. We have 3 to consider for next Tuesday. Mr. Little, if you would, please.
Yes, we opened bids last Thursday, and I believe we were pleasantly surprised on the prices that came in. And we have, for the paving program, A. Liberoni of Plum, PA, come in at $992,576 as the low bid. And the Seal Coat program come in at $343,070.88. And we have a loan bid for the fog seal program, and that came in at $237,181.34. And that totals up to about $1,572,828 for the total of the program. And as you guys well know, the loan bid, you can accept it or you can reject it and rebid it. That is at your pleasure. And this gentleman came up about, and is talking about the tar and chip, and that's something that council, in conjunction with Mr. Hugus, and everything we'll have to consider. Any questions on the paving program?
Yeah, which one is the Seal Coat program? Is that the tar and chip?
Seal Coat's a second bid, yes,
That's the tar and chip?
correct.
Okay.
And there's alternate 1 and alternate 2. We had this discussion last year where we put an alternate in there if we supply the stone versus if they supply the stone. And actually, this year, it was cheaper for them to supply the stone. That's why we chose alternate 1.
Any other questions, council?
One thing, we got residents, one here in particular, and then I have a street in my ward that does not want the tar and chip on the street.
My whole ward doesn't want it.
Are those
It's
roads?
scheduled for this year.
Okay, well,
That's the pleasure of council,
yeah, that's up to council. I
and
mean,
whether it's something that, we can certainly discuss it now. We could discuss it next Tuesday prior to the vote on this item.
I mean, it shouldn't be an issue. I mean, we're going to be saving a little bit of money, whether we have any alternate roads or parking lots you want to do with the extra money that, by eliminating a couple streets.
Yeah, I think it's important that we sit down and talk with Mr. Hugus about this. He's the one that has put that program together, and it has some benefits in areas, not all areas. I know there's some that are not happy with it, but there's other areas where it's worked.
I'm willing to give
So,
you the tar and chip in your ward if you want it.
I just got paid,
Me
thanks,
too.
thanks.
Well, the other question though is, this is currently, we put a plan before us. This was the plan for this distance, these roads were spent out for that. The question is if people don't want it, okay, then they're not gonna have something
I mean,
happen
once
to
it's
it.
done, it's too late. It
Right.
ain't going
Yeah.
to go away until it's milled up and paved.
Yeah, we're talking about 38 roads, approximately, 38
Well,
different
but my
streets.
question though is just because, if one is, I'm gonna use an example. If we had somebody that has a, 10-block-long road, decides those folks don't want it. Okay, they say they don't want it, you're stuck till it comes back around to it, guys. But the only things we have available is 12 or 15 blocks long, or something like that. In other words, can we adapt what we have? So if there's a provision to change, how do we fit within because now we have a budget they're put in front of us, we're gonna buy this amount of product based on this area that we're covering. Can the plans be altered? That's what, I guess that's a better way to ask the question, if they tolerate.
All right, well, understand we developed the program based on our assignment 10 years ago.
Right.
That's why the program is what it is, because, the municipality couldn't afford to mill and pave the roads that had to be done. So that's why the program was developed this way. And it's, our roadway assets are one of our biggest assets we have. I mean, if you look at it in totality, it's $230 million asset. So you've got to maintain it, and that's why the program was put together. So if you build a brand-new house, you did nothing to it for 15 years, it falls apart.
Well, I'm not
If
saying
you-
that
if you-
do nothing
if-
to it.
If you do it in a staircase fashion, like we put in the program, you mill and pave it, the following year you fog seal it, and then you follow up with crack sealing, and then you patch it, and then at the half-life, you chip seal it, and then the next step is you mill and pave it, and that gets you to your 15-year life cycle of the road. If you eliminate part of that out of it, you're not gonna get the life cycle out of your roads. So then you're gonna be reverting back to where we were before. We're still behind the curve because of sins of the past. And we're just now getting caught up. So if you're gonna pull that out of your program, and that's fine. If you guys wanna make that decision, I'll do whatever you wanna do, but that's why the program was put together, so we extend our life of our roads to 15 years. If you pull that out, you're gonna make that lifespan much, much shorter, and it's gonna, in the long run, it's gonna cost you a lot more money.
I think by
to do.
crack sealing and patching where we need to would last just as long on these low-impact roads.
We do that.
I know, but
But
if you look at,
but at half-life.
you look
you've
at a
got to do something.
low-impact road, a dead-end street, or even any subdivision, compared to, say, Rosecrest, that was done years ago. Rosecrest it's because of the impact of the traffic, it's run in. For instance, the neighborhood that I live in, you still got loose stones and cracks bleeding through. And that's been 3 years.
Again,
It's the difference between a high-impact road and low-impact.
and again, I go back to, it's a policy you guys need to make.
Well, I'm
I mean, I
thinking
could-
that
I could-
by
I could
tarring
tell
the
you-
cracks, it would seal and save the road just as long as tar and chip.
I could tell you that based on this year's prices, that the cost to mill and pave 1 mile road is $303,000. To seal coat 1 mile road is $60,000.
5
That's a-
times.
That's a big
I'm not
difference.
saying about paving these roads that you have under the fog seal program. I'm saying seal the cracks and patch them, like you said, when we do that. I mean, it's gonna save some money in the long run.
I'm not here to debate the issue. You tell me what to do, I'll do it.
I'm just saying there's,
Yeah, I mean, I think, so, Mike, you said a good thing, as far as low impact and cul-de-sac, so I think it's maybe what some people, what I'm hearing a little bit of is that, yeah, in some of these roads, like Abers Creek Road, that's like a great spot where that's kind of, I think, been successful, but maybe we've had, Mr. Poach, the street in your ward,
Mount Vernon.
Mount Vernon, where maybe that didn't work out as well for that street. But it's something that, a policy that council needs to make. To Mr. Huges's point, if we don't get the full lifespan out of these roads, we're gonna get hit with a higher bill down the road. Now, this council might be okay with accepting that. But to Mr. Adams' point, we're not talking about totally scrapping this program, maybe selective, some of the streets, maybe they're not that busy, maybe they're shorter, depending on where they are in neighborhoods. Maybe it's not that much of an impact. So we're not voting on this tonight. I think what maybe council needs to do is look over these streets between now and next Tuesday.
Mayor, can I make a suggestion?
Please.
First of all, when a program was put into place, is because we were so far behind when our roads were in such poor condition. We had to do this to save the roads because they were in such bad conditions. Because of what we did, we've caught up to a point, not totally. Now, we have a roadway classification map, and that's based on the average daily travel. So you have collector roads and residential roads, and maybe using that mapping, we could use that as a baseline, because it's going to be very difficult to determine what roads get it and what roads.
Well, no, that's what I exactly was looking for. I think we could tweak the Paisley study and some of these variables that you described, like, if they are high volume, if they're feeders or otherwise. And I think that's probably if we are going to modify, I think that's the only way you can do it, is by modifying.
Well, I agree. I think you got to use the roadway classification map to do it, because, you know, there are certain low-volume roads that are probably never going to get milled and paved, because the roadways are in such bad shape. You can't put a heavy vehicle like a triaxle carrying 22-ton of asphalt, the roadway won't carry it. Taylor Street, Mocco Drive, Montecito, you can never pave those because of the substandard roadway system it is. So you know, you can't make a blanket like that, but, you know, if you use a collector or use the classification map, maybe that's more of a baseline.
No, there's one called Montecito. Does that make sense, everybody?
Yeah, I understand.
Any other questions or comments about this?
Well, there are four, I just looked at the list, there are 4 roads that are basically more of a high-impact roads that are getting tarred and chipped. Ivanhoe Drive, McClure, Old Ramsey, and Ramsey Road. All the rest are pretty much subdivisions.
Well, Mr. Hugus, if you give council a little bit of an idea as far as the specifics on the roads like you described, that'd be helpful between now and next week.
Sure.
Thank you. Council, moving through our agenda. New business. 23-2-ST Municipality of Monroeville at Valley Park. Mr. Little.
Yes, the applicant, which is the municipality, is requesting site plan approval to construct a pedestrian bridge, pavilion, and a restroom facility. The property is located at 1268 Abers Creek Road, tax parcel 1108-P-047 in the S Conservancy zoning district, and the Planning Commission recommends approval of this application.
Welcome.
Martha?
Thank you very much.
Gary?
Good evening. Yes, we are the applicant's representative for the pedestrian bridge at Valley Park.
State your name.
My name is Martha Freck. I'm with Streamline Engineering.
Carrie Freck.
And so the proposed project is to put in a pedestrian bridge. It's going to be about 90 feet across Turtle Creek with a ramp that it extends to the Valley Park and also ties into the Westmoreland Heritage Trail. The other improvements proposed for the Valley Park is putting a pavilion and putting in a bathroom. It is to remove the existing skateboard park, and to also remove some of the gravel and asphalt and do some improvements by replacing that with grass and green field areas. We are staying away from the soccer fields. We're just concentrating on about 1.3 acres and trying to improve the area where the skate park is. The proposed construction is in a floodplain, but we have done an H&H study and showed that there is no increase in the 100-year flood elevation. And we also did a stormwater management plan and showed that there is benefits to that and a reduction of the stormwater runoff based on our proposed plan.
Jared, if you could put the camera on the map.
Can you get a
You can leave it where it's at.
Okay.
And
Actually,
that looks pretty good, actually. We'll probably,
Yeah, so this is Abers Creek.
Jared, if you could zoom in.
Yeah, this is Abers Creek, and this is Valley Park, and this is the soccer field. We're staying away from that. What we're doing is working in this area here, and this is the existing skate park. We are proposing to replace that skate park with a pavilion and a bathroom. The pedestrian bridge, there is a profile at a cross-section of the pedestrian bridge. It's about 90 feet spanning across Turtle Creek, and then there is a handicap accessible ramp up from the Valley Park up to the bridge, and then there will be ramps down to meet handicap ADA accessible to get to the Heritage Trail. Just as a possible view of it, This is a rendering that was done by Lynx Bridges. It's one of the manufacturers of this type of bridge. It's a aluminum frame with a fiberglass decking to provide, basically extend its lifespan from the materials. And this is just a rendering of what it could look like through that park.
So on the Valley Park side, it's landing about where the skate park is?
Yes.
Okay.
So are you proposing to put the restroom in the floodplain, or are you going to move it out of the floodplain?
Yes, so the restroom, I don't know if you can see this,
You have
but
to
the,
Move it up a little, you'll move it up, Martha. There you go.
And
You're
then
getting there.
towards you a little bit.
Toward, yeah.
Oh.
Oh, I'm sorry, there you go.
Okay.
I had the wrong direction, all right.
all right, so we're over here.
Okay.
And so, here is the pedestrian bridge. This is where the skate park used to be. There'll be a nice paved area, walkways to an extra parking area for anyone maybe using the trail. Here is the pavilion right here, and here's the bathroom. That was once proposed to put the bathroom a little bit closer right off the pedestrian bridge, but we feel as hydraulics and hydrology people that we should keep this away from as far as we can from the Turtle Creek stream, so it would stay out of the major conveyance of the floodplain.
So it's going to be in the floodway, and not the floodplain?
The floodway is marked by this light blue shading, and over here, this darker blue color, that is the 100-year floodplain that was delineated by FEMA. So we are
Is that across the
within-
street? Does that include this? It goes, okay.
Yeah, it goes across the street to the toe of that huge slope. So this bathroom is within the 100-year floodplain. What we show here on this, I don't know if I can get to it. Maybe if I can flip it around. I'll try to flip it around. Might be a little upside down. But the bathroom, what we have is planned is to put a little bit of fill in to bring the first floor of this bathroom up above the 100-year floodplain. And the toilets themselves will be at the rim of the toilets will be at the regulated 1.5 foot above the 100-year floodplain.
Is that going to be
All of the-
sorted?
All of the discharge then is going to be in the 100-year floodplain then, where it's going to go into containers of some sort?
Okay,
No, it's-
the bathrooms will be connected to a existing 18-inch
Okay, good.
sanitary line.
Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, there's an existing sanitary line that's on this side, on the park side of Turtle Creek. And we have been talking to, because that was just recently acquired by Alcosan, because the municipal authority here changed hands. And so we've been going back and forth with, okay, who are we supposed to be talking to?
Yeah, that's
So-
a Alcosan consent decree. That's how Alcosan's working that now. They're taking over.
Right.
Once the authorities get them up to where they need to be, then Alcosan's taking them over.
Okay.
And Monroeville's kind of been ahead of the game as far as getting their sanitary lines up to standards. Now Alcosan has already signed off on those.
Right, and so we are in the process of getting those sewer modules in and processed through Alcosan and through the municipal authority. So we propose a 4-inch line, because it's only 2 units, a 4-inch line connected to the existing 18-inch line.
That's on the sewer, right?
And it's sanitary sewer.
And there was, I believe at one point from this, and you know what, who knows the history of this? Mr. Estock. No, you're not getting off that easy, Paul. Oh, no. Because you may need to explain to us how this project's been ongoing now. We're into our 6th.
2019 is
Yeah,
when we 5th year. received, Christmas, right the week before Christmas of 2019.
correct.
We received a grant from DCNR for $243,000. When we priced this, it fit. Then COVID hit. So things have gone up a little bit in price, but we also have agreed from the municipality to match that. So we currently have $490,000 for this project to do.
And you didn't have any further conflict. As I recall, in one of Paul's presentations, there was an issue that the Army Corps had with this as well regarding the floodplain and sanitary. That's been resolved?
I don't
Not
know
you,
that
Paul,
answer.
this Paul.
Yeah.
Paul, I mean.
There's a lot of Pauls here.
Yeah, there's a lot of calls.
Yeah, we have three, we actually have all three in the same place too. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but
No.
so back to the clearance for the floodplain and the sanitary sewers. I thought that was also the Corps or not?
Streamline recently submitted an application to the DEP and
DEP.
Army Corps of Engineers.
Okay. And is it still pending?
It will be for a long time.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
It'll take about a year.
Okay.
We're still waiting for the sewer module to get in too, so they
Right.
need
The
that
D-
also.
DEP will not really look at our application until the sanitary sewer modules get done.
Okay, that's great. Now, it's slightly different subject on it, and to dimensions here. One of the considerations is if that's used in the nature of emergency response. The fire department's added some things, and one of the departments to be able to gain better access to the trail system, okay? One of the companies has done that. We also with Murraysville on the other end, and, you know, we have, it's a little bit more to gain access. Just can't drive a pickup truck down the trail, okay? How wide is that deck and what's the weight piece of it, and would we be able to use that if we need to bring people across it? You may not know the answer right now.
Well, I kind of do.
Terrific, thank you. I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, that's okay.
Without talking to you before,
We've been
but
looking
please.
at this, okay?
Great, thank you.
And it's not in concrete yet, but the plan is it's a 4-foot wide, a minimum 4-foot wide span, but it is not designed for vehicular traffic.
Right. We have some small, we have a couple of smaller.
Thinking about the quads that
Yeah,
you're-
quads and stuff that are available to do
You know how
that.
wide they are by chance?
That's what I said, we need to, can we double check
Yes,
with that?
absolutely.
But the other access point is
Right.
at Saunders Station Road, which really.
Right. But
as
if
the
they
crow
need to get
flies, is not
across
very
there-
far.
Yeah, but we can't get across the problem is the next bridge. So we've run into this already. So between our part where we get on at Saunders Station.
Correct.
We go through under the tunnel, which will be changed, of course, obviously soon.
Correct.
Then we encounter the next bridge. Except for a quad, we can't fit across that bridge. We can fit across the other one, going the other direction, but we can't fit across going eastbound to Murraysville to do that.
Right where the sanitary, that's.
Right, it's just, with the quad, it's like, we could do that. So that's one part. But that's why we looked at this as being a possible another means to be able to, if there's somebody injured, we've had a number of calls on the trail, people that are in there to do that and to extricate that from them. And we kind of look like people getting out of a clown car. I mean, we got big ones, smaller vehicles to small, till we can get somebody to move them across, to do that. And then the access from that are all ADA compliant, obviously. So the question is, obviously, we're going to move a stretcher across it, but I don't know if we need to think about any other access to it, a broader change. So it's just a straight.
I think it's the
ramp.
key, based on what you're saying, is to be straight, so that we don't have to make that curve in
That's
case you have to
great.
take a quad. We should
Yeah.
really maintain a straight line from one end to
So
the
we
other.
need to double check. Can you double check? Okay. You know what, can you tell?
I'll tell Paul.
Yeah, and then we'll double check the width of the quad that the
Yeah, that'd be a good
company
idea.
has and
Around 38
to
inches.
do that.
Much?
It's around 38 inches.
Yeah, but it's got a thing on the
Wide.
side.
Yeah.
I don't think it's got an add-on in the back.
Somebody talking about
too.
So
Paul.
we kind of need like 4.5 feet.
Yeah, it has an add-on in the back for stretcher attached, so I don't know the number to do that.
Okay.
So,
And
we're
just
looking
to
forward to
understand,
this.
too, when we talk about the pavilion's a very small little get-off. It's not gonna be a rental thing or anything like that. It's just gonna be a nice little pavilion to get off, get out of
Be
the
like
sun
a
type of
gazebo.
thing. Just like a gazebo.
Well, no, it's gonna be more
Yeah.
than that. It's gonna be
Yeah,
bigger
just
than that.
nothing
A rest
major.
stop.
Right. And we are gonna address too the restrooms and also the gate, that's gonna be an issue too as far as getting it closed down, the restrooms being locked and everything like that. So, there's a control factor there we're gonna look at too, so.
And one of the things that I thought made this attractive all along as we found out is, believe it or not, our stop on Saunders Station turns into, like particularly during a number of times of year, fishing season and
weeks
stuff
ago.
like that.
Yeah.
They don't have a place to park when they get
Right.
to get in the trail when they're going on longer trips. So moving to Valley Park is another access point for people to go to that, going into Westmoreland County into the trail.
100%.
So it really has a attraction
Yes.
is added to that space.
How many parking spots are proposed?
19.
It's nice.
Paul, what's the drop dead date on the grant again?
The drop dead will.
Even with the extension?
Well, it won't be till 2026.
Yeah, that's what I thought, okay.
Yeah. So we can do a 3-year. Hopefully, don't go that far.
Let's get it done before then.
Yeah.
'Cause I don't think we name the bridges after people that retire.
Yeah.
You know, they gotta be in place, you know, for a period, yeah, right. Yeah, well, it might also be, yeah, the rate we're going. It's the little Eslock Bridge right now, or Eslock, I'm not sure, yeah.
Council, any other
Okay.
questions about this item?
How high did you say the elevation of the restroom would be, like, off the existing?
Right now, the existing grade out there is around 838, and we have the restroom to be around 840.5, so it'd be 2.5 feet higher than what the grade is.
2.5 feet high?
Right.
Okay.
Correct. And then the rim of the toilets is another 1.5 foot. So, and the bathrooms are constructed with concrete and just easy rinse off if something,
Right.
if it gets dirty.
You'll need it.
Anything else?
Any other questions, council? Great. Thank you so much.
To it, folks.
Okay, thanks,
Great job.
Martha, thanks,
Forward
Gary.
to it.
Next item, 23-3-ST, HF Lens Company, Boyce Park. Mr. Little.
Yeah, the applicant is requesting site plan approval to construct a climbing wall and a BMX track. The property is located at 675 Old Frankstown Road, tax parcel 975L100 in the S Conservancy zoning district, and Planning Commission has recommended approval.
Welcome, gentlemen. If, state your names for the record.
Sure. My name is Andy Beckley. I'm Director of Allegheny County Parks. I appreciate your time, thank you. We're respectfully here to ask for site plan approval. What we want to do is build a climbing wall. We were hoping to build a climbing wall. It's going to be a series of 7 climbing boulders.
I'm excited about this.
From easy
I'll go do this.
to medium. It'll be by the 3B skateboard park at the swimming pool area where the old tennis courts used to be, if you guys are familiar with the park. We find, I'm curious why, I wanted to ask where they left the room, why they're getting rid of their skateboard park. I don't know if it was maintenance or whatever, I was just curious, but we find gravity sports are very popular. Not everybody's into team sports, you know, so gravity sports are something like the inner tubing, mountain biking, whitewater rafting, scuba diving, things like that, anything that plays with gravity. We have a plan to show 7 boulders. 3 of them have roofs on them, the bigger boulders, so you can't climb over the top of the boulder and get behind the wall. We have an alternate, a pump track. It's not exactly a BMX track, but it's a pump track that sort of undulates, goes around. We want to put that in between the boulders and the 3B's park, if we can afford it. We have rain gardens. The whole site's about 1.6 acres. And I have Luke from HF Lens, if there's any specifics about stormwater or anything like that.
Okay. You have some renderings you want to show us?
Name for the record?
Yes, my name is Luke Gindelsperger with HF Lens Company.
If you could sign in too, please.
Yeah.
I did too.
So yeah, I mean, I can go in and explain the stormwater a little bit and where, you know, where the runoff from the site goes. So regarding the plan here, if you guys can see here, so this is the pump track area. This is where the bike, you know, people with the bicycles will start out. This is going to be a flat landing
Excuse,
spot.
could you take us where the wave pool is? So I think the council members here could be orientated a little bit better. Where's the
yeah,
wave pool? I mean, just point towards which direction.
You know, it's, okay, so
'Cause
the
that's
wave
on
pool,
kind of the
wave
same.
pool would be directly this way,
Okay.
through the woods.
When you come into the main entrance
Right.
of the swimming pool, you sort
Right.
of go straight, and the 3B's park is to your right.
Right.
It'll be right next to it.
So they get a orientation.
that
where-
corner of
Right.
the parking lot.
Are you guys familiar with the existing skate park out there?
Yeah.
So that's literally right here.
Yeah, it's close to, it's actually close to like the Cooper Road end of the
Yeah, when you
park.
come in, you go, it's right on the right there, right?
Yep.
When you
Yep.
come in the entrance. Yeah.
So as part of that, we thought that was a very good area. It's a flat lawn space right now. It's
Used
not
to be
being
tennis
used.
courts.
Yeah, it's not being utilized for anything. There's an existing restroom building. I believe that's going to be renovated for the use of this project. So the utilities are already there. There is already a ton of stormwater piping for this whole parking lot. This parking lot is a mixture of grass parking stalls along with asphalt pavement, but it's a very large upslope area that comes down to a series of inlets. This whole skate park is actually connected to that inlet system. The inlets from here are piped. There's an existing tree right here. There's one inlet. This whole area, there's like a berm existing right now. I think when everything was demoed, the whole point was keep this all as kind of one drainage area, and that really simplified the planning to this, because this whole site gets to an existing 24-inch pipe. There's probably 20 acres to get to that pipe. However, we're only developing 1.6 acres of this park. As part of that development, of course, we need to provide water quality and rate control. These two storm water rain gardens, they will provide that through a series of biossoil layer and vegetation. Then that discharge is mitigated through those systems. So that whole rate's controlled, that hits our outlet structure and goes to that same exact discharge point as it's going to now. I believe when the tennis courts were here about 15 years ago, I believe.
Longer.
Yeah, maybe 20.
I've been here 20.
Okay.
That bathroom hasn't flushed for 20 years.
So, yeah, but that whole area was impervious. So we are absolutely not proposing anything more than what was experienced years ago. So.
Is this just a park thing, or is there going to be a charge to use this?
So this will be free every day of the year. So we wanted a climbing wall. We'd had ropes and things, and we found out that we had to charge people. We had to have a concessionaire. It was too much liability. So we had to refocus and try to, how do we bring climbing into it? So we built we're gonna have 7 small boulders with fall surface underneath it, which correlates with the height of it. There's this formula.
Gotcha.
You know, it's like a playground.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, 14 feet, I believe.
Is there somebody going to be on, Andy, is there somebody going to be on site or any, to monitor?
We are not. We're gonna say, use at your own risk. It's gonna be fenced off, just like the skateboard park. So if it's wet or something like that, we can lock the gate on it. But it's really,
It'll be closed at dark, too.
we'll be closed, well, the park's dawn to dusk. Except for the ski slope. But no, there'll be nobody on site. Rangers will do some programs once in a while. We may have some climate events, things like that, but we're engineering it to be open and free every day. And it'll be use at your own risk.
And those roofs provide.
Is there any, I'm just curious, is there any other of this type in the Pittsburgh area where?
So it's like about 5 of them inside buildings that you pay for. There was one a few years ago that's really become a lot more popular, so now there's 4 or 5 of them. This will be the first free one in our region. And sort of, it'll make this whole area gravity central. You have the skateboard parks, you have hopefully we can afford the pump track, and then the 7 boulders. There'll be nowhere like it in any of the other 8 county parks.
What's the pump track made out of? Like, is it?
It's a compacted dirt. Over top of that will be a layer of asphalt.
Sort of like undulating, the bikes will.
Yeah.
I just didn't know if it was all dirt, man,
There's
if it
some
was concrete or
berms.
asphalt.
It doesn't last long. We built one in North Park years ago, and we ended up having to pave it. The bicycle and the stuff, it just doesn't handle the traffic.
These are pedal bikes, right?
Correct.
Yes.
No motors. No motors are allowed.
It's about a 4 foot wide
4 foot
path.
wide track?
Yeah, and then at your berm locations, I don't know if you guys, so here's where you start your berm locations, and you're really gonna super with your bikes kind of coming around real sharp. You're almost kind of gonna be on your side almost a little bit. But that's the whole purpose of those. So the track widens out a little bit there, obviously, to provide for that berm.
It's not going to be there's one down at REI down on the south side of Climbing Wall, if you go into REI.
Right.
It's not going to
be like that.
tall.
That has ropes on it and everything.
This has
Well, that's
handhelds,
kind of,
correct?
that's taller than what I think is going to be. That one down there is about 30 feet.
Yeah, the tallest one of these boulders is 14 feet.
Right.
And it's gonna be basically impregnated plywood, and there's gonna be holes in it where we can put holds, different sizes. There'll be
Yeah.
different colors for easy or harder, so you can look at the wall and see. And we're engineered in such a way that I wanna keep it fresh, that maybe 2 to 3 times a year, for minimal charge, we can hire an expert to come in and change those holdings and make a totally different boulder. You know, the boulder's the same, we just change the holes.
Do you have any renderings of the boulders? I know you have like the aerial. Do you have any like?
I can find one and send it to you if that's
It's more of a curiosity. I think this is a great idea. I think it's great for Boyce Park. I think it's great for the region. I think as many recreational opportunities you can provide to capture as many individuals to be able to get outside and do things is great. I know whenever this process was coming through with the grant acquisition, I wrote a letter of support for
Thank
it.
you.
And so hopefully council, feels the same way. I don't know if any of them are going to climb on it, but
Oh, the free part was great.
Why not?
yeah.
We're open every day of the year, free, and anything we charge for is really below market value. We try to be the poor man's country club. But I think the synergy with the 3B's Park, with the bikes coming over here, is going to be nice. I think it's going to bring a different generation. And we work with Pennsylvania Environmental Council, with the state, and they're trying to get people to come into the state parks. We think like if they come and climb on these boulders. Again, we don't do anything that's really expert in our parks. We cater to beginners and medium level. And then if you're really good at something, you probably have to go somewhere else to get that. So this is the same with that. These are fairly easy boulders. We have roofs on 3 of them just so people can't climb behind them, because it's a hollow space behind it.
I think the landscaping of the site's really gonna bring this portion of the park together too.
We're
It's gonna
guessing
look
a couple
good.
$1 million, like 2.1 million. And then, I don't remember, we had a bid coming in, we're gonna put new pickleball and tennis courts on the other side of the park. That's.
Oh, you mentioned pickleball, Andy. I'll tell you what, we got a crowd here
Oh
that
my
loves
God, I hate that.
pickleball.
I should strike that from the record. But we took it, we bid it out.
Use the space.
We bid the tennis courts out, somebody bid on them, and then they retracted their bid. So unfortunately, we had to go backwards and rebid it out. But those courts are so bad, we can't even fix them. So they're closed.
Great. Council, any other questions?
No.
No.
No, so we'll consider this next Tuesday, but thanks for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
You're welcome.
This is an adjunct, that green parking in the parking lot there, for the swimming pools, we built it in probably the 60s. It's so good, we stole that design, we had to find it and do it at Hartwood and a few other parks where you could park on green grass. They did it right in the 60s, and it's held up well.
Good seeing you, Andy. I haven't seen you in a while.
Hey, thank you.
All right, thank you. Council, moving on, we have one motion for this month. Mr. Little.
Yeah, this is a motion to approve the property disposition for the Tricog Land Bank for the properties located at 2645 and 2647 Woodlawn Drive. Council, we get these periodically, that the land bank is going to have disposition on these, and they will put them on the market. So that is.
These are neighboring homes.
Yes, on Woodlawn Drive, yes.
This is good news for Woodlawn Drive, that's for sure.
Yes. Any questions on that, Council? Okay, the next one is this,
Resolutions.
is the resolution of the public hearing you just saw. It's a resolution approving the transfer of the restaurant liquor license number R2705 into the Municipality of Monroeville for Exia's Restaurant and Lounge and Events LLC located at 2525 Monroeville Boulevard.
Very good. And any questions about that, Council?
make money.
One ordinance for this month. Mr. Ratcher, please.
An ordinance of the Municipality of Monroeville, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, repealing ordinance numbers 2464, 2480, 2550, and 2690, and setting forth the requirements for obtaining occupancy permits prior to the transfer of 1- and 2-family dwelling units, establishing inspection requirements for multifamily dwellings, establishing procedures for obtaining said occupancy permits, and setting fees for said permits. And I believe this is an update.
Yeah, this is a housekeeping issue, updating the additions of the codes that are embedded within the ordinance. If you look on page 2 of it, it's changing the 2015 additions to the 2018 additions. There's no other changes.
Council, any questions? Very good. Moving to reports of municipal staff, Mr. Ratcher, anything for this month?
Nothing to report, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Little.
Yeah, Memorial Day, Monday, May 29th, is, we have the parade begins at 9 o'clock at Valley Honda, and we'll have the festivities down here at the cemetery below the Old Stone Church. And Community Day, as I've mentioned a couple months, the date has changed. It's from last Saturday in July. It's now June 10th, okay? And a lot of publications will be going out about that this month. Also, the Household Hazardous Waste and Electronic Collection event will be Saturday, June 24th from 9 to 1 at the Public Works Building on Star Drive. Register through Noble Environment.
You have to register first, correct?
Correct. That would be better to register first. And also, just talking about the cleanup day, I thought we had, considering the weather, I thought we had a pretty good cleanup day, Joe. Congratulations to you on that. How many people do we have?
We had a little over 400.
Oh, yeah. And
Picked
I
up
thought it was-
600 bags and 11 tires.
Yeah, there we go.
You say 11 tires.
That person looks familiar.
There's some hard workers there.
There we go. I'm at the tough spot.
Who's this?
Standing out in the weeds.
I was gonna say, which one was you?
Who's the guy?
No, it was actually, that last one was Mr. Sedlak,
guy
Mr.
on the-
Wheeldon, and Mr. Estock.
The guy on the right looked like the guy in that bicycle picture we saw.
Didn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jerry, you had to put up that bicycle picture.
Yeah, it was a great event, good turnout. Mr. Sedlak, great job as always, awesome job. It's a big undertaking. It's a lot of work, and we do a lot of good in the community, and we really appreciate what you do and all of our staff that showed up, the volunteers that helped put on the picnic, certainly all the volunteers that did the garbage collection. It's just a really nice community event, and we're going to keep doing it.
I guess I jumped the gun here. You
we're
had that on your report, maybe.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We'll
Reviewed the
work-
job.
We'll work for the 29th year next year, right?
That's right.
Very good. Anything else, Mr. Little?
Yeah, I want to congratulate the people that put on Mamma Mia, the play, the high school play, and also, obviously, the actors and actresses. I mean, my wife and I went, I thought it was just phenomenal. If any council or anybody else went, I thought it was great.
That's part of my report too, Tim, so
Okay.
you want to go through everything I'm going to say?
And the last thing is the farmer's market will be moving, as everybody should know, or if they don't know, it'll be moving down to the mall across from Best Buy, May 13th, Saturday, May 13th. And that concludes my report. I don't have anything else, Nick.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Little. Mr. Hugus, anything this evening?
I do. We got to circle back to the paving program, not that I'm going to.
The floor is yours.
The paving program, the 2301 pave, did include milling and paving the sports courts at the community park.
Yeah.
Remember, we talked about it a few months ago.
Yeah, right.
Getting a price to mill and pave, that was included.
Good.
Oh, in the bid, you mean?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
included in the bid
Great.
price.
You're talking
Thank you
about the
for pointing that
pickleball courts?
Yes.
Fix all of the.
Pickleball courts, the tennis courts, and the basketball courts. All three.
Redoing them.
And also
Yeah,
the
milling and paving them.
senior
That,
citizen
it was just put in there just to see what the cost was compared to what
So you
the
won't be,
other options were.
so you won't be putting lines over lines now then? Because I think that was the thing, they were just gonna
No.
reline the tennis courts with pickleball.
We had
lines.
talked a few months, I guess 2 months ago, options of what to do with the pickleball courts.
Right.
And one of the option was to put a product down,
That's right.
a 6 millimeter product
Right.
over top of it, and then put the play court surface over top of that. Another one was to have a company come in and do a mill and pave, and put the play court surface down. We wanted to see what our cost under our contract would be to mill and pave to do that was.
So we're
So,
milling and paving it.
right.
Good.
I mean, so we have a cost for that,
Gotcha.
so we can
Okay.
compare it to the
Okay.
other ones.
And then, to
Still
be
under
clear,
budget with the program.
Yes.
well, and to be clear, it's just for the mill and pave portion of that.
That's
Not
correct.
the- Not the sports
That's correct.
surface and everything, okay.
I'm still waiting on some costs because you have the fencing.
Sure.
The fencing has to be removed and installed again.
Understood.
Probably more what I need to know is, there's some sections of the fence that are missing that we get complaints about. If we want to put the fence back up, or we want to make that complete, with the openings. And if you're going to build other courts, it's probably beneficial not to put the fencing up if you're going to do that, but that's a decision you guys got to make.
Very good. Any other questions for Mr. Hugus, council? Paul, anything else for this evening?
No, sir.
All right. Josie, anything?
Nothing.
And moving on to reports of our council members. Mr. Hizzy.
Nothing, but Joe did a great job on Saturday. Everything worked out. A lot of people had fun and enjoyed themselves.
Very good.
That's it.
Mr. Poach.
Nothing else tonight, probably more for next week. I did want to compliment the chefs that were cooking this year. Okay, people survived all of that as well. To do as well, but more on Tuesday, thanks.
Very good, yes. Mr. Hizzy and Mr. Stevenson cooked the hot dogs up there, and we definitely had a lot of help. And, yeah. Mr. Stevenson, anything this evening?
I've got the same thing Josie has. Nothing.
We like that. Mr. Wolfram.
I have nothing, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Adams.
I'd like to say what a nice job Public Works did on our entranceway out here.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot to say it last month.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, they did a great job, yeah.
Reconcreted it, looked
Kinda.
really
Great
good.
job.
Absolutely. Great, thank you.
Want 'em all
Thank you,
burnt.
Mr. Adams. Mr. Williams?
This is gonna be long.
First, I want to recognize a 16-year-old young man from Monroeville. His name's RJ, and I'm going to try to pronounce his last name, Krishana Whammy, who graduated from University of Pittsburgh on Sunday, class of 2023, with a Bachelor of Science degree. He also has 2 associate degrees from CCAC. His SAT score was 1520 out of 1600, so I want to congratulate him. And Mr. Mayor, I wouldn't mind if you invited him to Tuesday night's meeting to recognize him.
We can try to track him down, yeah. I saw that story in the news. He's a Monroeville resident,
He's
huh?
a Monroeville resident.
Oh, that's good.
Yes, sir. Next, I want to thank Nicole Henline and her staff for the excellence in her organization of the chocolate party for the library donors and friends. On Tuesday, I'll be asking the manager to halt all tar and chip projects in the 6th Ward until we can look at it a little more. Before you, I sent these papers down. Before you, you have a document that I prepared for a 5-year capital improvement plan. If we borrow $20 million, it will cost $5 million in interest for the length of the loan. In lieu of that, I would propose to spend $1 million a year for the next 5 years on capital improvements. I would suggest starting by replacing the defective windows in the municipal building and security updates, especially at the municipal building. The funds for these improvements will be generated from the real estate and business privilege taxes from the following new projects. Evergreen Apartments, $40,000. Maple Crest Homes, there's $135,000, $190,000. Fox Plan Apartments, $25,000. And we have the new Old William Penn Apartments being built, and I figured that'd be $25,000. So that generates approximately $300,000, plus we'll have money coming in from Dollar General, Aldi's, Mission Barbecue, Chase and Fifth Third Banks, Taco Bell, Senior Apartments on Logan Ferry Road, which is coming, Car Wash on 286, Bowser Genesis dealership coming, the new 70,000 square foot Veterans Clinic, and that should be done in July. New Starbucks, new Law Funeral Home, and Friar Road storage units. I think the $300,000 plus these other businesses is enough revenue to move forward on these capital improvement projects. And I'll be presenting this to council for their consideration this coming Tuesday. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Mr. Biondo?
Yes, just to add to the SEDLAC cleanup day, there was 51 sites that were cleaned up throughout the day, which it was a great operation. We had a great time. Check out the Times Express article. There's a nice picture on the front. Well, it was on the online today. And I just kind of want to echo something that Mr. Stevenson said earlier about the zoning ordinance. And I think Paul did a great job. Paul Weldon did a great job with the ordinance. There is a lot more in that document than just the oil and gas. It really does kind of updates us as far as mixed-use zoning throughout Monroeville, which is something that is kind of brings us into the current state of affairs. And that's all I have.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Biondo. And, yeah, everyone covered everything I wanted to say. Congratulations to the, congratulations to the Mamma Mia cast. I mean, those kids super talented. It was a great show.
Yeah, it was great.
I mean, really, really impressive. Cleanup day was a success. Thank you to everybody. With that, I'll seek a motion.
Motion adjourned.
To adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned.
All right.